don't do anything, who's gonna do for our community?
It won't cost you a thing to listen.
Young people need to find their voice on the table and be seated there with the elders as well.
Losing our land is not an option.
At the end of the day, it's our human rights that is at stake.
I love the energy of young people. As a Pacific elder, it's my responsibility to make sure that I listen to what they have to say and to help them to consider how they're going to plan the future.
I've got more than 20 grandchildren, and it is about them. It's about all the grandchildren that we need to do this for.
Yes, climate change is a big drawcard for the To Hell with Drowning conference, but I spoke with conference organiser Professor Katarina Tewa around what else is on the agenda this week.
Characterizing the whole Pacific as vulnerable and in deficit is not that inspiring, it's not that empowering, and it's not that accurate. So this is what the conference is about. Like, we are safeguarding what's important to us, and we're telling people that what we're doing in the region is important in its own right. We're not just here for geopolitical dramas. We're not just here for other countries to play out their geopolitical competition. That's not right and that's not fair. So we're challenging the discourse, we're challenging the policy, we're challenging the frameworks that kind of put us in that deficit box constantly and focus on some of the things that we do very well.
All right, let's go over the actions. Everyone bending your knees.
A way I share and express my culture is through dance, and it's also bringing our lands to life. You know, our ancestors, they danced and used, reflected on all of the environment that was around them. So when we dance, we're paying homage and honouring our land and also the people that pass these gifts on to us.
I begin to stroll towards the forest with my grandmother. And
the arts are our library. So if you don't have arts in Pacific Studies, or if you don't have arts in the social sciences and humanities, you're not actually doing it from a Pacific perspective. Hey, hey! Oh! Hey, hey! Oh! I'm not saying people have to know dance and music and poetry and chanting and all of it, but you do have to have a sense that these forms are not just for tourists. They're not just there for a bit of fun.
Security in the Pacific was also discussed this week, and the Pacific Elders released a statement expressing their concern around the AUKUS deal with Australia, the UK and the US around nuclear submarines. Now, I spoke to Dame Meg Taylor and also former President of Kiribati, Anotia Tong, around their concern, and here's what they had to say.
Pacific leaders were not engaged in any discussions around the Indo-Pacific strategy. And, we've been assured by Australia that these nuclear submarines, that they are not armed. The question for us in the Pacific should be, if you do arm, will you tell us or not? And if you won't tell us, then we will assume that they are.
But it was an issue that's been raised. We're not blind, we're not deaf, we hear and we see what's happening, and we ask the questions. So we were never really an important consideration in all of this.
True engagement with Pacific communities or consultation with Pacific communities is quite often not done enough, not done right, or quite simply not done at all. So I put the question to attendees here around how outsiders can better engage with Pacific communities, and here's what they said.
Because I was born during a cyclone season on 21st March 1990. So
I think the outside communities have an important role ensuring that they do justice to the narrative shared by our communities. We've seen a lot of media coming into our countries to take a lot of stories, but they don't ever come back after to see what and how our communities are doing after every disaster.
It's in communities, it's in families, it's amongst the youth, young people. So if the level of engagement is at a very senior, high, hierarchical level, then you're missing like 90% of the story.
We're very kind and calm people. And
you will always feel the spirit as we speak to you. We will invite you into our homes and we will give you, you don't have to ask, but if you would listen to what we have to provide. But it starts with a conversation.
I am pretty fed up with a lot of the COP conferences because, you know, there's the negotiations going on in one room and everybody else is talking to themselves, and we sort of wonder other people actually listening to what we want.
I am a proud Pacific woman, a product and custodian of Oceania, and I can...
When I say to you, if you lose your home, what do you lose?
I lose everything. I feel like my land is my power source, and even with living away from the homeland, every time I return back to Samoa, I get power and I get energy and I get motivation and empowerment to keep going. And without my land, I lose all of that power.
Losing our home is losing our identity, losing our culture, losing our, relationship within the ancestors.
Although we are on the front line, we're all affected differently. So that should be enough, What is it that you want to tell your children in the future when they ask, were you aware? Did you do anything? You would want to say, I did try.